Yes, people. Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts on Monday morning. Yes, people, we are here in the nice, lovely sun, giving you some morning updates on what's happening in the football world. We're going to be talking all things Chelsea, what's happening there with people like Gittens, man like Pedro. We've got Man United and in their pursuit for Mbeumo. Is he in a dangerous position? And should Man United fans be worried, as some people are on the internet? We've also got coming up, we've got the Liverpool pursuit of Guehi. That will only heat up apparently if the asking price is dropped. So we'll be wondering, will Liverpool actually make the move? Then also we've got Spurs. They haven't been spoke about much. They won the Europa League. They're in the Champions League, and yet we're not talking about them signing players. And another report is that they've walked away from another target. We're going to get George's opinion on that and where these club is heading. And then finally, obviously, we're going to be talking about Arsenal. We're going to be talking about Gyokeres Sporting, what's happening there. I'm joined by George. I'm joined by Jamie. Guys, how are you doing?
Oh, good. Can't complain. I was in Budapest over the weekend for a stag, so it's definitely a little bit more tired on a Monday morning than usual, but there's a lot to talk about, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, how are you, George?
Yeah, man, I'm well. Can't complain. So, like I said, no signings yet. Haven't had that adrenaline pump that many other fans are getting, but apart from
George, I don't know if you came here. You are lagging out. You are lagging out bad. So just to let you know. Okay, it's fixed itself now. I think you're back. Oh no, okay, nice. And it's gone. I'm talking about also being, I'm sure George will be back. Talking about being back. Terry will be back, people. So Terry is okay. He's just held up somewhere right now. He will be back ASAP, guys. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you tune in to the show. He'll be back as soon as possible, and the show will continue with him. So yeah, guys, he's okay. He's just busy doing something. He's been caught up in a situation where he has to commit. So don't worry about that. So yeah, George, I think you're back now, George. I think you're back.
Yeah, I was lagging like crazy.
Yeah. That heat you was complaining about is capture, bro. You know what I mean?
Nah, it's much. I even got the curtains closed. It's mad. Like I'm literally sitting in the dark right now, trying to avoid the sun as much as possible. But yeah, man. Still, as I was saying, we're still calm, cool, collected. My team will make moves soon. Come financial year starts tomorrow, so that's when we actually wake up. Our transfer window actually opens tomorrow. So
yeah. That's what everyone's been saying for every other club as well. So yeah, the window actually opens July 1st, really.
Apart from Liverpool.
apart from Liverpool. Apart from Liverpool City and Chelsea, them men are moving crazy. Guys in the comments, guys in the chat, let me know how you guys are doing in this fine morning. Like I said, Twisted Baba, he is okay. Terry is fine. He will be back in no time. He will be on this show today. He's just caught up a little bit, so we are just starting without him. Because you know what? Sometimes he's late in it. Sometimes he is late. I know you guys are tired of him being late, so why not start without him? You know what I mean? Why not start without him for once? Morning, Rob. Well, Rob, man like Rob in the chat. Good morning, and good morning to Lou as well. Good morning to everyone in the chat there. Let us know how you're doing, how you're feeling about your club. And you know what? Since we was talking about dopamine rushes of signings, there's only one club to start with because they made 2 signings in 2 days, and that is Chelsea. Chelsea have signed Jamie Gittens and João Pedro from Brighton. And the interesting thing is that they have got them for a collective price of around 105 to 110 million pounds. For these 2 players. One of them is a left winger, another one versatile forward, shadow striker, left wing, right wing. So they are improving their attacking line. But I need to ask the guys. I'll go to Jamie first. These 2 players for that combined fee of around 105 to 110 million, do you think they are worth that amount of money?
in today's market, it feels like an average player is worth 50 million, 50 to 60 million. It just feels like that's the way it's kind of going. Maybe a little bit less, maybe 40 to 50 million. Is like it's kind of like what 20, 30 million was a few years ago. But I just think, yeah, prices are very inflated. I think you're seeing it now, like say the Mbeumo transfer, like they're trying to get a lot more money from like 70 million for Brian Mbeumo. I think it would probably be too much. There was talk, I think the last day we spoke about Semenyo being around 70 million. Like players' prices are just crazy. So the thing is with João Pedro and Gittens, they come in and they will be a good additions to the squads in terms of like maybe the potential, but it's the same thing with Chelsea. It's like I think what Chelsea fans want is someone to come in and just be like the main man straight away. I think Palmer struggled a little bit at the back end of last season, so maybe they're a little bit worried. Is he going to be able to perform? I think I've seen something. He hasn't scored a non-penalty goal in 25 games or something for Chelsea, which is just it's madness considering that like how good he was up until the new year. But yeah, I think I just worried that the players that they're bringing in, it's the same type of thing. Under 25, low wages, just kind of players that will be in and out of the squad. They're not going to be unbelievable. They're not going to take them up to like maybe like winning the Premier League or winning the Champions League. They're just going to be still kind of in around that 4th position. Like they're not going to take them above Arsenal, City or Liverpool right now. So it does seem like more money wasted in a sense.
Yeah, that's fair enough. George, what are you saying?
Yeah, man. Like I've said before, I think João Pedro's a really good player. I think he's got a lot of potential, and in the right team, under the right system, I think he's ready to explode and become a star. I always fail to think that Chelsea's the right team and the right system due to the amount of acquisitions that they make. I feel like you never really get the chance as a player to prove yourself as being the one for that club and get that opportunity in the team. Because like we're seeing now, the way that I look at these deals are these are replacements for players like you've obviously got the Sancho replacement in Bino Gittens, and then the João Pedro's replacing a Felix or in Kunku. And I'm like, okay, you're just doing man for man replacements, but you're not actually signing players, or you could say the type of players that you need. Like I look at Chelsea, and we spoke last week, and we were talking about how they're making a lot of signings, they're making a lot of moves, but not at the right profile. They probably need players that are going to push them into a title challenge, not players just to help bolster their top 4 depth type of thing. Because all of these signings they're making, Bino Gittens, again, very good player. He's good at dribbling. He's one of those wingers that have a lot of upside and probably better on the dribbling side to what they've got at the moment. But when you talk about in front of goal, he's not that great. He's not a player that's going to come into the Premier League, score 10 goals, get 5 assists. Because I'm looking at £100 million spent, and I'm thinking, surely this is 30 GA at least in the Premier League. And I'm not talking about just you sign players for GA. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I mean, you're signing 2 attackers. You'd expect them to bring you at least 30 goals and assists together in the Premier League because you're spending 100 million on it. I can't see that coming from either of these 2 players. Bino Gittens, when I've looked at his past couple of seasons and looked at him as a Dortmund player, it's like in the Premier League, he'd be lucky to get 10 goals. Very lucky to get 10 goals if he has a good season. João Pedro, on the other hand, he's a player that can contribute, and I think he's ready to contribute for Chelsea. But again, at the same time, how much better is he than Nico Jackson in the middle? Not really too sure if he's that much better. He's competition for Nico Jackson in the 9. But then again, out on the left, is he better than everyone they've got on the left? No. He's competition for players that they've got on the left. So neither of these players necessarily improve their starting 11. And that's where the problem lies. If you're spending £105 million on 2 players in similar positions and neither of them are guaranteed starters, you're looking around and you're like, what type of business are we doing? Are we approaching it right? So I feel like Chelsea should have went and took that £100 million to try and go test someone's resolve for how much they actually want to keep their players. Because everyone, I put a tweet out yesterday saying this exact same thing, and all the Chelsea fans come to my defense saying, "Oh, what players can we sign for 100 million?" I mean, a lot of players you can sign for 100 million. You just need to throw that 100 million at a club to see how much they want. You could go to Bayern Munich and you might say Elise is not a £100 million player, but talent-wise, he's better than Pedro. He's better than Bino Gittens. You throw that money out there at them. You test their resolve. Same for PSG, for Doué, for all these types of big wingers that you're looking at that are at teams that you think, oh, they're not going to move. You throw £100 million, they just might move. So the problem right now is you're looking at a market where a lot of people are afraid to sign the bigger stars. So they're signing a lot of these young and upcoming players. And Chelsea have done this for many years and it's not worked out. So when I look at these signings, both individually good players, but as a signings to improve their team, I'm looking at this and saying it's underwhelming.
Now, I hear what you're saying. Everyone, people, just want to say welcome again to the show. Everyone who has joined over from the United Stand, thank you so much for coming over. And Terry will be back. Terry will be here on the show. He's just currently caught up. He will be here ASAP. We decided to start without him, just to let you guys know. So don't worry. Keep talking. Keep chatting in the chat. Keep watching. Keep listening. Terry will be here soon. But yeah, continue on with Chelsea. Yeah, okay. So I understand what Chelsea are doing. They see the gaps. You got Mudryk, obviously, potentially about to get banned. He's been officially charged. And even if he don't get banned, I don't see Chelsea keep him in anymore anyway. So he's going to get gone. He's gone. Sancho's left. They couldn't agree terms, so he's gone. Like you said, you got Nkunku, João Felix, two players that have not worked out Chelsea at all in the forward line. And they're looking to get sold. So I understand them trying to replenish that forward line in certain areas. But then when you think they've got Esteval coming in, they've got Kenda coming in a year, who's also another winger. You've just signed Gittens for the left-hand side. You've just signed Delap as a striker. You've got Noni Madueke. You've got Pedro Neto. You got Cole Palmer. Where is all of this fitting in? Now, João Pedro coming in to be that Nkunku João Felix replacement, I understand. But for me, it's the prices. 55 million on both minimum is a lot of money for quote unquote squad players. And then on top of that, they want to go sign another attacker. And the talk right now is Mahadi Kudus, who for me, excellent signing if they get him, but he doesn't play left wing too often. He's normally a right wing or a 10. So now you're going to be potentially taking a player who's excellent and putting him in a role that he will do well in. I'm not saying he wouldn't do well in. Kudus is a great player, but that's not where he's best suited at all. And that squad is screaming out for that left winger who is top notch. So I'm here wondering, like, is it a wise investment? Is it a wise investment to get these two players in and then sign another attacker on top of that? And how is that going to work with the squad? Because Jamie, what happens if João Felix don't get sold or Nkunku don't get sold?
Like, I don't think they're afraid to phase people out. Like I remember there was the whole thing when Maresca came in and Sterling said he didn't want to leave, and then he was like, well, you're not going to play. So then they obviously got him out to Arsenal. So I think the best piece of business they've done is the Delap for 30 million. I think, like, I know he obviously had a clause in the contract, but I think he will add a bit more than Jackson has been able to. And yeah, Kudus 2 years ago was good, and like he definitely was important player for West Ham. But I think last season he struggled a little bit. I think West Ham were probably reluctant or regretting maybe not cashing in on him the year before. But if they get 60 or 70 million off Chelsea, I think they'll take it. And they'll go out and maybe reinvest the money. But yeah, I think, like, I'd say a goalkeeper, someone I think would something that they need to improve. But they obviously went in for Mike Maignan, and they felt it was too high, but they feel like they're all right to go out and pay 55 million for Pedro and Gittens each. But it doesn't make sense in that sense. You know what I mean? I think that's one area that they should be improving, but like they won't spend. I think it was 25 million or 30 million they're being quoted, and they didn't feel like that was the right price. So yeah, it's a bit strange. But I think Chelsea's policy is different to like a lot of people's in terms of maybe they invest their money, and I think that's sometimes hard for other fans to kind of wrap their heads around. Like they sell a lot of players, they bring in a lot of players, and it's just their model at the minute. And to be fair, they have went from 12th to 6th, and now they've got Champions League. But I just think to get to that next level, you kind of need like almost world-class players, or you need them to evolve in the squad. And I think that's something that they're maybe not doing right now.
Yeah. So, Joe, there's a comment here. We're going to come to your comments, people. I got some started, but there's one that relates to what we're talking about now. It says we have Jamie and Pedro for the left. So this Chelsea fan is saying that Pedro and Gittens will be for the left-hand side, and then Kudos would be for the right-hand side. Oh, no, Pedro, not Joao Pedro. Pedro Neto, I think it means, for the left. And then Kudos will be for the right-hand side or the number 10. But I've been told by Chelsea fans before that Pedro Neto is a right winger and he's the starting right winger. And when he's played on the left, he's not been as good. So that's where I'm like, there's a lot going on for Chelsea where it's shuffling, moving parts, trying to convince themselves that, here he is, perfectly on time, trying to convince themselves that like all this attacking talent is fine because all we can do is just shift. But to create a settled squad, surely people need to know pretty much where they're going to be most of the time. That's just, I don't know, that's just me. Because I'm hearing loads of different things from different Chelsea fans. Like, you got Ches in the group chat who'll be like, yep, we're signing another attacker. It's going to be fine. This player can play here. This player can play there. I've heard other Chelsea fans say, well, actually, we need this person for this position. So signing X player doesn't make sense. I don't know what's going on personally. I would love it to work. I said to the guys backstage, I would love it to work, this Chelsea project to work, just so I can say we've seen Football Manager in real life and actually worked out. I think that'd be hilarious, right? Fair enough. But right now, they need to manage the squad. And if they can sign Madueke or Jackson, if they sell Madueke Jackson, if they can sell Nkunku, Mudryk, and Felix, then no one's going to say anything. That's fine. Like everything's reset. They've got their attackers. But right now, we don't know how that's going to go. So that's where I think people are confused.
But
right,
even
people,
with just quickly, even with that, like you said, even if they sold those attackers, they're just replacing players that haven't even contributed for them already. So yes, they're getting players that now can contribute, but at what level? Because how much of an improvement is Joao Pedro? Like, I actually really rate Joao Pedro, by the way, but how much of an improvement is he on Nkunku? I don't think it's a major improvement when you talk about their actual gameplay and how they play and what they're doing on the pitch. I don't think there's a major improvement. When I look at Joao Felix when I look at Sancho and Bino Gittens, there's not a major improvement between Sancho and Bino Gittens. So when we're looking at Chelsea's team, like, have they actually improved from last season so far? I don't think so. They're depth-wise, they've got more depth and more options, but I don't look at their team and think, yeah, they've taken a step forward.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for starting without me. I'm not one to ever, it's not their fault, but I had an appointment at 9:45 this morning, didn't get seen until 10:50, and no aircon in the surgery either. So, yeah, it was awful. But decent news. I've had really bad throat for about 4 weeks, and they've just said, they put a camera down there and they were like, it just looks like strained vocal cords. So they know what I do for a living. So basically, it's quite nice. He said, when you're not working, you just got to be silent. So it means I don't have to talk to anyone now for like a week. So that's pretty good treatment, to be fair. So thank you all for being patient. I just want to say on the Chelsea thing really quickly. If I put my own personal opinions aside for a moment, and you may have already touched on this, I apologize, but it's looking at the Chelsea fan base that I find so interesting, is that you have some that are like, yes, I like this. It's part of the plan, the process. Pedro's great. Gittens is great. There are others that are just sitting there and saying, hang on. The likes of Gyokeres and Williams and Rodrigo might become available. United are getting Mbeumo. And I saw a big conversation last night where I saw United fans tweeting saying, oh my God, Chelsea have just embarrassed us. They're about to just they're about to drop 55 million plus 5, so 60 in total on it didn't even make sense, on a player who's not as good as Mbeumo, and there we are sitting around haggling. And I sit there and think to myself, hang on, Chelsea fans, you think that's good that you're saying you're getting a worse player than Mbeumo for about the same price? That's where I'm really intrigued about the whole Chelsea scenario. It's almost like the bit of the sort of internal civil war. Some of their fans are just sitting there going, hang on, we're spending a lot of money on good players when for the same money or maybe a little bit more, you could buy very good to world-class players, but it does appear they don't want anyone really who's going to come in and upset the apple cart in terms of salary. It's the salary for me that they're trying to keep down, because it seems like every single person they're trying to buy is probably going to be happy to come in on 100K a week, 120 max. But then you think about the names of Nico Williams, Rodrigo, Gyokeres, they're all going to want 200,000 Osimhen, 200,000, 250 minimum. And that for me is the only area where, although I actually quite like the players they've bought this summer. I like the Lap, I like Gittens. My jury's out for me on Pedro. I'm still not fully convinced, but we'll see. The one thing that I can't ignore from Chelsea fans, though, as a talking point at the very least, is why we're not going for that next echelon of player when we're so close. They're not far away from challenging consistently throughout the course of a season. So I just find what's intriguing is watching the Chelsea fans, because it does feel like a complete 50-50 divide in their fan base, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think as well, because obviously the new like model of transfers is very different to what they used to do in terms of like going out and just like you're the best striker in the league, you're the best player in the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you think of all the players that they went out and signed to go out and like win them leagues, win them Champions Leagues. So I think, yeah, from a standpoint of the fan base, there's probably like a bit of clashing to say like, well, this is the new model, but then people remember the old one. They find it very difficult to accept that. Like, they're not going out and signing like a Gyokeres. They're not going out and signing like any other top class players that are available at the minute.
Yeah, and then I was talking about I was making a point about Pedro Neto playing left wing, but apparently the chat was saying, the comment I was talking about, they're saying that they're saying Pedro Neto will be left wing. But this is where I'm confused now, because like, okay, cool, you've signed Pedro Neto to be now your starting left winger. Apparently, is that actually an improvement?
João Pedro, you mean?
Yeah, they were. They were
so,
talking about, yeah.
That's the confusing thing, though, is because they've got João Pedro who plays left wing, but he's a striker really, but he plays on the left wing, but can deploy there. They've also got all these players like they're listing out there, Gittens as well for that left wing. But it's like, why would you spend £100 million on two left wingers when you could just make one of your other wingers deployed as like a second option on the left wing, or your backup as for your star player? It's like, it's just not me. Like, I'm not a big fan of Leao, but you go and get Leao, and it's like, okay, we brought a player that could actually be the difference maker type of thing.
And then sorry to just quit. And then they've got Kudus being the backup to Palmer, but then you're paying potentially 60, 70, 80 million for a backup player. It doesn't. It's just.
But I'll be honest with you. See, this is. I don't think anyone knows, because and everyone's guessing, because Chelsea are not going to reveal that part of their plan. And I know that, again, this is probably hard for some rivals because they're angry at their own club for not making a lot of sales. The sales will typically come later in the window. And I think what this more means is, I think, barring Palmer and probably Neto, I think every other single attacker at Chelsea's position is under threat, is in they could be sold. And I think a lot of players they'll look to move people on, whether it's via loans, whether it's via sales. So at the minute, I think what we're seeing is people try and work out a way, because this is what happens when you, and this isn't just Chelsea fans, I think this is across the board, when you just blindly defend every player at your club and you make excuses for them and they'll be okay and they'll be good. Then when you sign new players, there's this, well, I can't now say, well, we'll fuck him off because I've spent 2 years saying how brilliant. The amount of Chelsea fans that have done Madueke prop, and I know George did a lot of the same shows I've been on, they've done Madueke prop for 2 years. They can't just now be like, well, yeah, we'll get rid of him because he ain't good enough. Because they know that's the truth, but they've spent 2 years saying he's one of the best and most exciting wingers in the league. Now to just say he'll go because he's not of the standard. I think a lot of it comes down to people being a little bit intellectually dishonest for two to 3 seasons about certain players. You get it in the United fan base when people are, well, we signed these players. Where's Amma going to play? Well, it doesn't really matter. He'll play in 10 some weeks, but let's look at the facts. He did better for Man United last season when he played as a right wing back than he did in the 10 role. It doesn't matter how much you like Ahmed. Let's be honest. His output was better. His performances was better. He scored more goals. I think we won more games. The problem is we had no one that could do the 10 role very well. So now what we're looking to do is have him on that. And at the end of the day, it's like with Frimpong at Bayer Leverkusen. yes, he was playing fullback, but if you actually watch those games, the man was an attacker. I don't care about the starting position on the pitch. It's about what the attributes you take up. But look, Chelsea are going to sell a lot of players now, and the jury is just out on what you said, KJ, and this is fair. I actually think Chelsea are going to have a good season next year. I actually think some of these deals, I think they're going to be a much better team because I think they're improving on the players. I think Gittens, I think he's a lot better than Jadon Sancho for the Premier League, because what he will do that Jadon Sancho doesn't is he'll just keep driving at fullbacks. I don't know why he doesn't do it, and I would love to ask Jadon this as a genuine man-to-man question, not on camera. Why don't you keep driving at your fullback? Because you watch him in a game sometimes, Sancho will drive at a fullback and do him. Like, oh, just do that all game now. Do that all game. Then for the next 20 minutes, it's shoulder, pass back. And I sort of sit there and think, but you had the man on toast for the first 10 minutes. Now you're not. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the tactic. Maybe it's, I'm not even trying to disrespect the man. Maybe it's a lot of energy to do that for 90 minutes. I'll do it for 10. And then I don't know what it is. But I think with Gittens, you'll get someone that will be driving at that fullback for large periods of that game. And I felt if Jadon Sancho did that, I think we'll be having a very different conversation about him now. But yeah, Chelsea's situation is very, very intriguing. And the one question I would throw out there to the people defending all the transfers is, are you buying the level and the caliber that you were demanding at the end of the season? That for me is a big question, because I'm getting that from Man United. We were linked, KJ, weren't we, to kids?
Yeah.
18 to 21-year-olds. We were going to copy the Chelsea model. And Man United fans did their nuts, and rightfully so. In fact, our first signing's 26. The next one's 26, 25, 26. Prem proven. And people say being Prem proven isn't important. I've done some research on this, boys. Bayern Munich. You look at the last 10 years, the signing by Source League, 41% from the German Bundesliga. The next highest percentage is 17% from the Premier League. Real Madrid, their biggest percentage of where they buy from is La Liga at 21%, then Germany at 14%, then the Premier League at 10%. Chelsea, 25% Premier League, then League R. Barcelona, 24%, the high percentage, 24% La Liga. Man City, 21%, Liverpool, 27%, Arsenal, 24%. The one team, ironically, that bucks the trend in that time of not buying Prem-proven players, and they've struggled, is Man United. We come in at a measly 9%. It's so interesting that when you actually start looking at the teams across, PSG are the only side who go against that grain. PSG, I was looking at their numbers, and they signed 23% from Germany and La Liga, respectively. The third highest is 17% from the French league. The only anomaly they have is no one else in their country can spend like them or has the power they have. So it's a little bit of an anomaly. But most of the successful teams across the top leagues in Europe, their largest, the biggest league they buy from, or the highest percentage of league they buy from, is their own. So that's the one thing I'd say about Chelsea so far this summer, is 2 of their 3 are from the Prem, and the other one, Gittens, is English. So it's not like he's not used to this. I actually think that's the right way to go. You look at what, Liverpool are doing. Yes, Wirtz is from Germany, but it's one of the top leagues. As Frimpong's an interesting one because he's from the German league, but he's from an English academy. You've got Gyokeres who's coming in. You look at the other 2 players Liverpool are looking to buy. It's Gahey and Isak. Again, Prem proven. So that element for Chelsea, I think, is really key, that they are buying players from... They are getting a fair amount of players now, and they're targeted to a lot of players. Kudus is another from the Premier League. So I do think they'll be a much better team next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think they will be closer to the top. How close though? I don't know. I don't think they'll struggle to get top 4 this year. I think they'll be pretty much cemented as one of the top 4 teams, and everyone else scrap it out for the 5th place if it's there. But again, it's the question of what does it take for Chelsea for them to be a title contender and therefore go on to win the league? I think that's the big question I think all of us have, is like, this building is great, but if they're going after Arsenal after 3 years of finishing second and building that way, and they say you must win the league, you're not too far off them in terms of your squad and your process. So when is it that we demand Chelsea to win the league like people have been demanding Arsenal to win the league? That's my question.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you on that, and I don't know about that. I'd like to pose that question to Jamie. Chelsea should be expected now, going 4 years into their rebuild. You're talking about by the end of this summer, it's going to be well over £1 billion spent on first team players. This manager, if we look at just his cycle, he's spending what is going to go to 400 to 500 million. There has to be an expectation on that, surely.
Yeah, there would be an expectation on it, but I think the statements that you make as a team in terms of like your club and what players you're going to go for, and what we were talking about there before with Abramovich, and he would go out and sign the best players because he was like, we need to go out and win things. I don't think these signings scream that we need to go out and win things. It's kind of nice to have. Like, I think the goal next year for Chelsea, like internally, probably get Champions League and then potentially win a cup or something. You know what I mean? And they would be happy with that as a manager because like they'll get the Champions League revenue. I think the Club World Cup is big for them and big for a lot of the clubs because of the revenue that generates. But yeah, I'd be frustrated as a Chelsea fan because I feel like they do have good players in the team. I think Palmer, I know his form dipped a little bit, but he is a good player. I think Caicedo is only getting better the more he's at Chelsea. I think Enzo has had a lot of big improvements. They do have like the kind of nucleus of a good team, but I just feel like the signings that they're not making now are not taken to the next level. So even though they're in the next stage of like what do we call Arteta's rebuild, like stage 7, whatever it is, like they'd be stage 4 in terms of like the ownership model, but like they're not kind of any closer to Man City, Liverpool, or Arsenal in that sense. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think these signings are going to take them there. So I think the expectations of the fans will be that they want to get back to that level, and that's the way it should be. Because if the Chelsea that I grew up knowing was that, it was the ones that were like they were so hard to play against. The quality of the players that they had, were always there. But I feel like because this is a new ownership, it's a new kind of expectations. We have those old expectations that we used to have on Chelsea, but I don't know. I'm yet to see the ownership kind of match that model.
It is though, Jamie. Don't you think that Chelsea get like? What they're doing right now is they're just getting away with lowering their expectation due to the quality of players that they're signing. Like, if we look at the money, like, just take away the players, look at the actual money they're investing. They're investing like a club that's trying to win the league. Now, the players they're signing are not at that level. So then I'm looking at it and it's like, okay, so they're avoiding the expectation of trying to win the league or having the expectation of you need to title challenge, but they're spending like that, which the fans are just being like, oh, yeah, we could spend what we want. We've been doing this for years. And us as rival fans are just accepting like, oh, yeah, Chelsea have been doing this for a while now. This is just what they do. But no, like we have to get to a point of like, no, you're spending this amount of money every year. You're signing this amount of players. You should be challenging. You should be going up there and winning things. Now, obviously, like we've highlighted, like some of the players are signing aren't at that level, but they could become that level. But for me, it's just like avoiding the expectation right now. That's what it seems like the ownership is doing.
I want to just give you a fact on numbers. So after the Gittens and the Gittens Pedro deal, so in 1 and a bit summers, Maresca's Chelsea have had 526 million euros invested in it. To put that into context, since Arteta has been manager, they have spent 790 million euros. So in 1.5 summers, Chelsea are only 170 million euros shy of matching Arteta's total spend. And I think this is where the question, and by the way, Arsenal have not spent anything yet. This is all taken from Transfer Market. So I'm only going by the numbers. They're going to have Kepa's numbers and that you've got Zubimendi's numbers that haven't been added yet because they haven't officially announced it. So you are going to add, if we had Zubimendi there at like the euros here, about 60 million euros, Kepa's going to come in at say 8 million euros. They're the deals. They say this kid they're going to get for 20 million euros is done. They're the ones that are like that.
For 11.
And who?
Norgard.
Norgard, for 11. Let's add those in as well. Okay, it's a little bit higher now. So you're talking nearer to, I must have done a wrong number. You're talking, so it was 290 million. My maths was off. About 290 million difference, but in 1.5 years. You're now talking about 300, just under 360 million euros less. But you're talking about a 5.5 year span versus 18 months. There is a rightful expectation on Arsenal to now judge their seasons based on partly on the trophies they win. You've always got to contextualize things. But there has to come a point soon where Chelsea are judged on the trophies they do or don't win. When you invest that, Chelsea can't be the only member of the traditional top 6 who is not judged based on the money they're spending. The rest of us are consistently judged. In fact, people try and take away from Pep's achievements by saying how much money he spent. So I will say that I don't think Chelsea are having a bad summer so far. I think they've signed some really good talent, but this manager alone has had 526 million spent in one and a bit summers. There's got to be for me. I don't really care who they buy. I'm basing it on what they're spending. They have got to be in the title race next year, Chelsea, as a bare minimum expectation for their season. They have to be in that title race. I don't think you can drop what they're about to drop again and then go finishing in the top 4 is okay without closing that gap trying to close that gap on Liverpool. And I know Liverpool have spent big, but they've got to try and close that. For me, anyway. For me.
Do you not like? Obviously, I agree with like the amount of money that they spent, but obviously their whole model now is buy loads of players, see which ones fit. If they don't fit, like sell them. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes the resale value might be higher or lower, whatever it is. And like their outgoings in the time that Ted Bowley has been there, the new group, is because they sell a lot of their players too. Do you know what I mean? So like their outgoings are pretty high in comparison to other people in the team. I think my thing is like what George said, they go out and spend all this money, but like they're not really it's not like pushing them up to the echelons of say like winning a Premier League or winning a Champions League. Do you know what I mean? I think that's where my expectation of Chelsea, I understand the expectation because of the money they're investing in the team constantly to bring in new players. It's a very different model to everyone else in terms of like the way they do it. My expectation of Chelsea is that they don't have a squad to compete for a Premier League or a Champions League. And even like I know Champions League is a little bit different because you can not be the best team in the league and you can win it. Like we've seen it, Chelsea have done it themselves before. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool have done it in 2005. You can not be the best team, but I just think like consistently competing at the top is not what this ownership model like. They're not. It's not about that. It's about like a business. It's like revenue generated.
I get that, and I think that's like that's why I like these conversations. That's where I think there's for me. Someone here just says, Terry, we always get judged by what we spend. Now people mock you for how much you spend, but then that's different because I don't mock you for how much you spend. I never say, oh my God, I can't believe they're spending this amount of money. It's wrong. That's a different conversation. I also get where you're coming from, Jamie, when you say, well, I'm looking at what they're buying and therefore I don't expect them to win the league. I also agree. I also get that point. But for me, I'm sort of somewhere in the middle where I go, where do I think they will end up based on what they've bought versus after spending that amount of money, this is really where you should be. Because from my perspective, I look at, and I don't think they bought crap with that money. Caicedo is a great example. Cucurella is another. Palmer. At the same time, I look at what Liverpool are doing this summer, and Chelsea will have spent more money in 2 summers than Liverpool this summer. And you've gone and got Wirtz, potentially Isak, Frimpong, Gyokeres. And I know you've already got. So I look at it and just go, with the way Chelsea are moving, you can stick to this model, but you could go out this summer and go, there's Isak or there's Gyokeres, and you add in a gem to this team that I think wins you an extra 10 to 12 points. And you're still spending the same money. But the difference is instead of qualifying for the top 4, you could legitimately win the league. For me, it's not about changing the model. It's a very slight adaptation. So I do get your point. I don't expect them to win the league on a prediction level.
Yeah.
But I expect a team that has invested this amount of money to be in title races. I can't ever get my mind away from that. And I don't mean year 1 or year 2, but they're going into, and again, people will do the Arsenal comparison. They started their rebuild when Arteta came through that door, not because he's the manager. They changed everything about the way they operated Arsenal, the way they bought players. They stripped it all back and started again. They got a lot of criticism for it. When they were going into the beginning of their 4th year, they were challenging for the league. So I expect Chelsea to, and I've said this on record, I expect Man United. By the time we're going into the 4th year of Ineos, because that's when the rebuild started, not with the manager. For me, Man United's rebuild didn't start when we appointed Amorim. It started the summer that Ineos took full control over our operations. I look at Liverpool. You might do a squad rebuild here and there. Your rebuild didn't start with Klopp. Your rebuild started when FSG took over your club and started changing how you operated. So when people go, oh, what phase is slotting? Well, probably about phase 32 by now, because you've gone through these processes. I don't think club rebuilds are about a new manager per se, unless you can prove and show the world changed. The world, the model and everything changed at this point. They got rid of all the recruiters. They changed the style of football, the types of players that we're going to buy. If you can show that, then you can make that argument. But as a general rule, it's there. So yeah, for me, I get where it's coming from. It's going to be an interesting season for Chelsea, and they're not done yet. They're still going to sign more players. I think Mohamed Kudus would be an excellent deal. But viewers, do us a big favor, please, and hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Please get this stream shared across your social media platforms. That would be amazing if you could do that. On Man United, KJ, quite a few United fans asking for United to walk away from the Mbeumo deal. They're saying it's getting embarrassing now. Not enough business done before pre-season. Do you advocate that message?
I said before on the stream, and I'll say again, only walk away after you've done your third and final bid of around 65 million. That's as max I would go. After that point, that's when you walk away, because I think you've done pretty much nearly everything you can do to sign a player. The club won't agree. So you've got to move on. I wouldn't walk away now just because Man United fans are feeling quote unquote embarrassed. I don't really think there's anything to be embarrassed about. Like, people are comparing this to Chelsea signing Gittens Pedro. But let's look at the two players. Chelsea went in, guns blazing, signed a player who's had, a decent season with Brighton, and signed him quickly, compared to Brentford not letting go of their prize asset. Like, Brian Mbeumo is their prize asset right now. It was always going to be a struggle to get him out. It was never going to be go to Brentford, do one bid, and you've signed him and you walk home happy. It was never going to be that. There was always going to be some kind of mini saga. I would have wanted to happen quicker, but let's look at the reality of the situation. Like, it is one of the best players in the Premier League from last season. He scored 20 goals in the league. It was never going to be easy. So I think Man United fans need to, I understand where the frustration is. They've got this idea that we need 4 or 5 signings in by the 7th of July, because that's when our preseason starts. But even if you take that, if you look at our preseason, we come in at 7th of July. Our first preseason game is on the 19th of July. So we have 12 days in between that, just at Carrington. And so you're telling me we can't sign players during that 12-day window? I don't think they're missing much. If we sign Mbeumo and Cunha for the 7th of July, they come in. And then on the 10th or the 11th of July, we sign another player. I don't really think they've missed too much of preseason. I don't know what they're doing in the first 4 days that would be so crucial that if you miss out on it, it's huh?
You do running in the first week. It's basically fitness training for the first week of preseason.
Exactly. And these players have been training. So on the holidays. So I think United fans need to just relax for 2 moments. Don't get sucked in by whatever people are doing. Just focus on what we're trying to do. Man United fans of years have been complaining that we overpay for players and that we sign players too late. We've signed one very early on. We're trying to sign another player early on, and we're not trying to overpay. But because it's not quick enough, and because it's not matching the speed of Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea, who all have different reasons of why they've signed so many players so early, it's, oh no, just pay the money, just overpay and rush. So what do we want? What do Man United fans want? Do we want to be better in the transfer window? Do we want to be better in how we operate as a club? Or do you just want to look like you're doing stuff in the market, but then leaving ourselves short again because we overpay? Because Man United fans want us to pay 70 million now for Mbeumo just to get it done, but then pay off Sancho to leave for free, sell Anthony and Rashford for £10 million. Like, so all the things that you hate Man United doing, you want us to do again just because you want to feel like something's happening. And then when that happens and things go wrong, or Mbeumo doesn't get 20 goals, he only gets 10, they'll be complaining that why didn't we take our time and try and negotiate the deal down from 70 million? When we've got no money to buy an extra player at the end of the window because we sold players for flipping pittance or paid them off, they'll be saying, why have we done this? We should have sold better. We should have been better ran, and we could have signed extra players. So this is where I'm at with some United fans right now. You can't be complaining that we were terribly ran and we're not doing things correctly and we need to do that better, but then not wait for that thing to improve and then ask for the same things that you hate. It doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot more that goes into transfers now as well that people aren't really thinking about. Like I know transfers can get done very quickly in certain instances, but like especially for bigger money transfers and like players that a team needs. Like Brentford know that like United need Mbeumo, do you know what I mean? So they're going to try and like flex it a little bit to try and get a little bit more money because they've lost Thomas Frank and now they're going to lose their best player. So it's a big change for them. They want to get as much value out of it as possible. So like even with the Gyokeres deal, he said in his interview that Liverpool have been speaking with him since May, and that's when he kind of knew before the end of the season. So like it's not just a case of Liverpool have like gone into the window and said we're going to sign Gyokeres. Like that was pretty drawn out in terms of from when they actually wanted him and started the negotiations to actually getting him. And it's only happened now last week. Do you know what I mean? So there is certain times where it's just going to take a little bit more time. But if United feel like he's the right man to come in and obviously do the business, then I think like obviously you don't want to just say you're going to spend whatever money. Like they've done that in previous years where like teams have just been like, well, you're United, you know what I mean? Pay the money up front or you're not going to get the player, and they've just given in. So you do have to obviously negotiate with them. And even from the Liverpool's perspective, our owner, or one of our owners in FSG, Tom Werner, came out and said that they almost pulled the deal on the Wirtz deal because the price was going to get too high. And like that's just like some of the stuff that you don't hear about. You just see the signings. You know what I mean? So there's a lot more that goes into it, which fans are just hungry for transfers. They're just like, sign him. Doesn't matter. They'll say it's not your money, but like at the end of the day, it's a club's money and they have to obviously negotiate. It's not your money because you'll say just spend it, but it's the club's money, so they have to spend it.
It's so funny because the one group of fans, barring the trolls, who are actually on United's side in terms of these negotiations is Liverpool. And the irony is Liverpool being used as the club to beat United over the head with. Look how Liverpool operate. But Liverpool agree with how we're moving because that's what they've done for a long time. And there's been pain for Liverpool in terms of walking away from deals, not signing people. But it's what then leads to being able to get very good players at a decent price. And forget the Mbeumo thing. Before I go to you, Jules, I need to get this off my chest. It's been bothering me since last night. I've seen so many big United fans, YouTubers, TikTokers, big accounts say the goalposts seem to have moved. So I've said all along, if within the first week of preseason, so that's in 15 days' time, that's when the first week of preseason ends. If we haven't got 3 new players for the manager, I'm going to criticize Ineos because I want them there for the integration. I'm now seeing people go, it's got to be 4. Plus, we've got to get rid of the big hitters, the Sanchos, the Rashfords, the Antonys by that time as well. And I'm sitting here and I'm laughing because I'm thinking to myself, where suddenly is this expectation come from? There's got to be 4 new players and 4 or 5 really big sales are hard because they're players on Mo Salah money without Mo Salah ability. Where is the expectation that's all got to be done by the first week? That's now the expectation for the first week of preseason, or people are going to riot. And I sit there and think to myself, this is what you're saying is stupid. Just look how amazing Liverpool are at transfer business. City, let's just forget the Club World Cup that sped up a lot of these deals. I was even told yesterday by people that Chelsea haven't got Pedro done quickly for the Club World Cup. Yet they're flying him out there to register at the fucker for it. You know, you sit there and you're like, you become delusional because you want to hate, right? Look at the teams that have done well and got players in for the Club World Cup. Chelsea included, City, and then look at Liverpool, who 2 of Liverpool's permanent signings sped up because of the Club World Cup. Again, not my words. Liverpool fans that have been on the show spoke about it. How many of their big players have they all sold? How many of the Darwin Núñezes, the Jacksons, the Noni Maduekes, the Diazes, how many of these players have been sold by these amazing clubs? The answer is close to 0. Yet Man United fans who know we're trying to get to that level, if we don't get all 4 big players out and at least 3 or 4 permanent signings in, I'm writing. Again, I believe you're setting the most unrealistic expectations imaginable towards being angry. And by the way, we could get rid of those players like Sancho now if we bowed down and went, okay, guys, we'll take your £20 million offer and we'll pay half his salary for the next season. Do you know what? Rashford, we'll do this loan deal with Barca, where we'll pay half your wages. Anthony will accept a lower transfer fee. We'll pay a percentage of your fee so Real Betis can afford it and you can move. And do you know what would happen with that? We'd have less money to spend on players because now we're making a fucking loss on all them deals. It is moronic, low IQ, batshit crazy nonsense to expect this stuff to be done the way people are asking for it. It's one of the reasons we've run out of cash. It's one of the reasons we're 15th in the league is because we've been a joke in that boardroom and a joke in negotiations for 12 to 13 years. We consistently overpay and consistently undersell. And the remedy for fans to get a little dopamine hit so they can show off on X is for us to continue in that fashion. Drop me fucking out. You sorry to get nasty, but you absolute moronic fucking amoebas. It is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life. Your remedy to fixing the club is let's do what the old lot used to do, but on steroids. Let's do it even fucking worse. Morons. Absolute morons.
And the funny thing is, they say, we no longer want player power in the club. But allowing players to be sold on their terms and leave on their terms and get out easy is bound out. It's just player power. Because then you can sign, literally, players will look like, I can be signed for 70 million, get 350k a week. And then when I want to leave, I can force their hand and I can leave for a pittance and they will still pay me. It's insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
That's the funniest part, isn't it? George, me and you are the only parents on here, I think. I think, Jeb, you got kids?
No. No, I'm good for now.
You look too young. I know me and Jules do. Imagine this, right? We've both had this with our kids where they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. You've got to try and fix it. Imagine the remedy to fixing it is doing what you've already been doing wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like, my son's being a bit spoiled at the minute. How am I going to make him behave better? I'm going to buy him another toy that he wants. That'll make him worse because in his little brain, his little 5-year-old brain will go, well, the naughtier I get, the more toys I get. And the players in our dressing room will do the same thing. Do you know what? The more you hold the club to ransom, the more you get what you want. And they may not think about it consciously in the moment, the other players, but they'll know it exists. I would actually rather, if we're going to lose money on a Rashford, I'd rather pay the fuckers full wages but make him rot in the reserves than give him what he wants and still lose money, because it sends a better message to everybody else that money isn't the most important factor. Behavior is, and we need to get to that. But yeah, as you say, there's a great comment that came in. I'm going to go to you in a second, George. I'm really sorry. It says, some fans for the dopamine relief would rather lose money just for the bomber. And it's true. It's true. It's not a bomber if the deal hurts us. It's crazy. And this is why about patience. I would rather Rashford go on the final day of the season, deadline day, but it frees up money that we could then invest in January. Then he leaves today at a loss and we have no money from him leaving. We have no money from him leaving to help us improve the squad. Yes, I'd like it, utopia, all of them to go today for maximum money so we can invest it. But the world isn't that easy. And everybody wants to live in the extreme. I want it all done now today. I don't really care about the implications. It isn't my money. But they won't even contemplate the opposite extreme, which would be better for us. And I just think a little bit of patience is needed in these deals. Sorry, George, I interjected, mate. Apology.
No, it's fine. All I was going to say was with regards to the outgoings, like you said, I think people are just jumping ahead of themselves. They're trying to get that, like you said, we need to get rid of these players. They forget that for a player to leave, there needs to be interested clubs, and those interested clubs need to be interested enough to have those as their top targets to move on them so early. I think a lot of these players, the likes of Rashford, the likes of Anthony, also because, like you mentioned, the price tag of what they're going to come at, the fees what they're going to command, and their wages are probably going to come in the last 2 to 3 weeks of the window. It will come probably after the season starts. Once they realize, yet again, I'm definitely not getting a chance with Man United, they're going to start to push for a move themselves, and they're going to start to find clubs where they can accept wages that are a little bit less than what they thought they were going to get originally. This is all a game. It's all a game, and people think that you need to jump ahead. You need to start doing things really early. And it's like, for incomings, you might want players to come in sooner. But again, like you guys have said, for the Mbeumo deal, it's just like you're trying to get Brentford's best player. They're trying to get as much money they can because he is their best player. And to be fair, looking at the rest of their team, they're probably not going to look at selling anyone else. So they're like, we need to bring in some money this window. They're a selling club. They know exactly what they're doing. Let's get the most that they can. And the deal's probably going to, like, anyone that's panicking is just being silly, because when you look at it, it's like, David Ornstein come out last week and said Brian Mbeumo only wants Man United. He's not going to go to Tottenham. Brentford only wants to sell Man United. So it's just like, all right, whether it gets wrapped up today, it gets wrapped up tomorrow, it's going to be wrapped up soon. It's just a case of Man United trying to figure out how many add-ons there's going to be, what the actual final price guaranteed is going to be. but they're almost there. So like you said, there's too many people complaining, too people trying to get that dopamine hit, trying to get the early transfer bomber. Calm down, slow down. It's gonna happen. It's pretty in my head. I'm just like, Mbeumo to Man United is done. I don't even look at that deal and think about it.
Yeah.
Like it's a done deal. It's waiting to be signed off.
Well, Joe, one thing I would say as well. So I've seen some people saying it didn't happen under Sir Alex Ferguson when he was there, but I think the United now they're coming from a position of weakness. Do you know what I mean? So like the reason they're not like going out and being able to sign like unbelievable players. So the class of players that they could go out and buy that can kind of get them back to where they want to be is smaller in that sense. So like Mbeumo is someone that they feel like he's played the same system at Brentford. He's like a high quality player. He's proven in the Premier League, so his price is going to be a little bit higher. And I just think, yeah, like United, people are saying like Liverpool got their business done really early, Man City got their business done early. But like back when United were winning Premier Leagues and competing at the top, they used to go out and sign like the best player in the league, or like best players around the world all the time because they had that pull and they were able to do it. They have to operate a little bit differently, and considering how they have been in terms of negotiations the last, I say, decade, they're at like a disadvantage in that sense. So it's just
So I was going to say, Jamie, you make a great point, but that, earlier on we said about the Prem proven thing, buying players from your own league. A lot of people have said, and it was only Staffy that made me think of this. Staffy said it was a bit of a myth because City have only signed like 9 players in the last 10 years, and we all on the show, and I agreed with him by and large. But then all I said is, well, we should probably run an analysis and work out the percentage. And I've been doing it this weekend on different clubs, and you find out actually the most successful teams in most of the top leagues in Europe predominantly buy from their own league. The other analysis I run was by this stage of the transfer window, so we're only 2 weeks in. So, but on average, the top 6 teams in England typically buy, and I'm not talking about buying, you might see 10 transfers, but it's like this free player or this like 18-year-old bought for 2 or 3 million quid. So I looked at significant transfers. On average, there's around the top 6 teams for the past 24 years, by and large, have averaged 5 significant signings per summer. That hasn't actually changed from 2003 until now. 2 weeks into the transfer window, the average amount of those players, of those 5 that are signed over the line by this point, comes in at around 16%, which is less than 1 player done at this point. So United are too slow. Well, we're ahead of the curve there. Secondly, if you look at it as being 20, because I run it again, being 24 days old, by adding in that weird 10-day window before the Club World Cup, so we'll be fair. So if we go for the first 24 days of any window, it still only averages at 25%, with the highest percentage ever being 30%, and that was in the 07-08 summer. Ironically, that's when a bit of that was United getting Hargreaves, Nani, and Anderson done basically at the end of May, which was an anomaly year. So even if you go by the average, at 24 days into a transfer window from top 6 clubs since 2003 until now, it works out at 1.25 players. So let's say we get in the next couple of days, Mbeumo done, it's 2 deals, we're well above the average. Liverpool having 3 done is not the norm. It's actually more than double the norm at this stage. So that's where, again, I think you have to, and I know people go, yeah, but our circumstances change, we're in trouble. Yeah, but then that's why I've looked at it from 2003 till now. There's been many a year where United were struggling, not to this degree though, but Liverpool and City and Chelsea and Arsenal, all of us in this period of time from 03 till now, have had some dire years where we needed to react. And still, the average amount of players signed by now is between 1 and 1.25, even at 24 days in, even less if you go by 2 weeks. I don't quite understand where this new expectation has come from and what it's based on, because your expectation has to be based on reality. Most clubs don't have more than 1 or 2 deals done by this stage of a transfer window since transfer windows existed. Where is this expectation now come from? From United and Arsenal fans primarily, that nearly all your business has got to be done now for next season to be a success. Because if that was the case, nobody would have been successful. I just don't. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying you're wrong to want deals done early. Yeah. This idea that if they're not done early, the world will collapse. I need to understand or see the empirical evidence to where this is true.
I did. No, you're right. Do you know what I mean? It's just because when you think about like previous transfer windows, nobody thinks about like when the deal was done. They're just like, oh, we signed that player in the summer transfer window. Do you know what I mean? They're not like saying like they don't think about like when they were worried or anything like that. I think as well now with FFP, there's such a big adjustment in teams. They need to like understand like if we go out and spend this money for I don't know X amount, adding 10 million onto a transfer, like that's a lot of money in terms of like just if you're trying to like build a financial structure that you obviously want to live by going forward. I think teams have to a little bit more and even signing a player that they like that might not work out, that could like hamper them for a long time. Do you know what I mean? So they have to obviously think about it a little bit more. So yeah, just people are just reactive, impatient. But as long as they get the deal done, that's all that matters.
And I'm not saying people shouldn't want. I'd love it all done early. I really would. And as I've said, if we get to the end of that first week of preseason and we've only got one player in and we're not looking like selling anybody, I will condemn it. At the same time, I'm not going to. The expectations I've seen set are so far and beyond what even the best run teams in the world have done for over 25 years. I don't think those expectations are right. You know, it's you know, we're all YouTubers on here. You're trying to grow our channels. Imagine saying to George, you're going to be considered a failure if you don't grow your channel by double the amount of new subscribers that Mark Goldbridge gets every month. Go on. One, Goldbridge don't get that amount. And he's seen as the best or the most successful. But imagine you're just considered failure if you're not at that level. You'd look at it and go, but I just know that's impossible. You eventually could get to that level, but it takes time. And that's my issue. I feel like the expectations are often so warped. You have to question the motivation behind warping them for me. And there we go. Let's go to some of these comments that have come in here. Terry, it's the same when people talk about sales. Of course, and you've got to look at sales. I mean, Jules made a great point on sales, but what about this sector of it? What about now? Anthony has publicly said he wants Real Sociedad. I get why he said that. Batiste. But what happens if privately we're going, oh, we've got some rumors though that this club and that club might come in later in the window? Anthony might go, well, I'm going to hold off signing anything then because a better option for me might come up. The fact that fans ignore that is fucking mad to me. United issues are beyond getting plan A over B by any means. United need players that fit the system. Berta gets judged for what United should be doing, working on multiple deals at once instead of haggling over Mbeumo. But United are working on, that's the other myth. Man United are working on multiple deals at once. We just are. We're talking, we're doing work, we're trying to sell players, we're getting our ducks in a row. People just think that's all that team's doing is sitting there talking to Brentford for like day after day. If you just think that's how it's operating, I'm sorry. We're talking. Do you remember the TV show Playdays? Yeah, you know what I mean, or the Magic Roundabout with Zebedee. Is that the Rosie and Jim levels here? What we doing? This is crazy. We fans panic over nothing. We don't train till the 7th.
And don't have a preseason game to the 19th. It's just if you just logically think about it, you would calm down. But people, we don't have logic.
Also, this Staffy did challenge me with this yesterday. He said, "Why do you think it's going to be okay? Why are you so confident?" That's also a misconception. So I want to make sure I'm addressing this publicly. I'm not saying I'm confident we'll get everything I want done, but I'm not going to lose my mind and get angry about it until that point. Just forget one. I mean, most of these people don't think their whinging helps anyway. Well, they don't think being positive helps. Therefore, whinging can't help, logically speaking. But why lose your energy? I've already got a sore enough vocal box as it is. Why do I want to scream and shout about something that hasn't happened yet? That's all I'm saying. And by the way, you're free to do what you want. But if you're free to criticize my opinion, I'm free to criticize yours. Don't cry. Having intelligent conversations about transfers is almost impossible now. I agree with you, what you said about Man United. Same thing happens with Arsenal. Now, on Arsenal, gentlemen, on Arsenal, an interesting report's come out today, and I wanted to get your views on this, is that they have an agreement in place with Gyokeres. I think that's been fairly well documented on that the player wants them. The player wouldn't say he wants them unless he'd been offered a deal, right? Because you've got to know what they're going to pay you, etc., etc. According to a few reports, that they are prepared to pay this, I think it's 60 million euros base for the player. Sporting are still demanding I think at least 70 million plus add-ons. And according to these reports now coming out of Portugal, for me, have been ahead of the curve when it's come to the Gyokeres news, at least in relation to who he wants to play for, etc. They're now stating that Arsenal will not budge on that, and unless they get him for 60 million base, they will not buy him. Question: is that a mistake by Arsenal?
No ambition. It's no ambition, Terry. It's no ambition. Like, we have to put it quite frank and be honest about with ourselves. Is as rival fans, and I'm giving you like not even my Tottenham hat on. I'm talking about as a rival fan. I'm scared of Gyokeres going to Arsenal, and I'm not doing the Arsenal are scary and trying to ban. No, I'm actually scared of Gyokeres going to Arsenal because what he does to Arsenal is elevate them to a level that they haven't been in a long time. Arsenal don't go and get that deal done. It shows they've got no ambition to win the Premier League. And to me, what has Andrea Berta been brought in to do? Because at this point, you've lost Arsenal's biggest target in Gyokeres if you don't get him. And then you've lost one of Arsenal's best players in last season in Partey because you couldn't get him to sign a new deal. So he's basically come in and made their team worse. He's put Arsenal in a worse position than what they was in before. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to pay 80 million euros? Because Sesko is going to cost in and around 80 million euros. Let's not act like they're going to be able to get it done for anything less than at least 70 million euros. So if you're haggling over 4 to 5 million on a player who is, again, like we spoke about last week, he's proven, he's experienced. Sesko, you don't know what level of quality he's going to bring to you. He scored 13 goals last season. 13. Didn't Gyokeres get triple that? Like, what are we? There's literally no comparison when I'm looking at both of these players and what they bring to Arsenal. So when the choice is like, oh, we might go and get Sesko, and Arsenal fans, we know exactly what they're going to do, Toe. Like, what they're going to do is they get Sesko in, they're going to start making the stories about how Sesko was always a better signing than Gyokeres because so and so and so and so forth. That's just what Arsenal fans do. But you can only lie to yourself if you're doing that, because if Sesko doesn't go Arsenal, but he ends up at Man United or he ends up at another Premier League club, Arsenal fans are going to be fuming and they're going to be kicking themselves. And an Arsenal board will be looking absolutely stupid. I have come alive. I've come alive also. When it comes to speak about Arsenal, I'm always alive. Number one hater. You know what it is. But more than anything, like, if another Premier League club does pick him up, Arsenal are going to be fuming. Because you're looking at a player that wanted you, should have been at you, and you've let him go and score 30 Premier League goals for another team. Like, I can't understand what their board is doing at this moment in time.
Yeah.
It's funny, George, as well, though. Do you not think, say the 4 or 5 million they're haggling over, and we're just talking about the Mbeumo transfer there, like United are haggling over that money, and then with Gyokeres, so Arsenal are obviously haggling over that too. Do you not think the same logic should apply? I think it's obviously slightly different in the sense of Arsenal need a player to get them over the line for a big trophy, whereas United obviously need, like, their basically their goals are different in a sense.
Yeah.
So I mean, Arsenal don't really need to worry about like the money side of things, or like how they do business with the transfers. It's more the expectation of them that they need to go out and get a world-class player to get them over the line to win a big trophy is so big now. Whereas United is more around, like the financial structure and like not getting absolutely done in the transfer market, spending ridiculous money on players. So so do you think the same logic should apply is my question?
No, I was literally going to make that point as well after George said. I was going to say, it sounds hypocritical what I'm about to say, because I was advocating for United to haggle, and now I'm doing the opposite for Arsenal. But I'm not a hypocrite, because I don't think Man United and Arsenal are the same. So you can't call me that. Man United and Arsenal are in such a better position than Man United, to the point where it's like Man United can't take risks financially because of how bad we are. Arsenal need to take risks financially to get over the line, because they haven't been able to do it how they're doing it for the last 3 years. And that's where I feel like they are with Gyokeres. They actually need to do this. They need to take that risk. They need to push the bar a little bit and go and get what they need to secure the title, because that's the ultimate goal. They're not where they were like 4 or 5 years ago, where you're trying to steadily build and try and get into a position where you're comfortable and you can start challenging for the title. They've gone past that. They're clear of that.
And you know what's more embarrassing about this as well, KJ? Didn't they not sign Kai Havertz for 80 million euros 2 seasons ago? So
We
you're
did.
telling me that you don't want to spend 8 million euros on Gyokeres, who's just scored 50 goals, but you went and spent that on Kai Havertz, who has done nothing for you. Kai Havertz, who you're looking to replace within 2 seasons. Like, this is what's not making sense. And people are in the comments going, oh, you want Arsenal to overpay. Arsenal have been overpaying for players. You just overpaid Zubimendi's release clause so you could spread it out on installments. So you've been overpaying. You overpaid for Declan Rice because you wanted the player you got. You overpaid for Kai Havertz because this was the man Arteta wanted. Go overpay for Gyokeres if you're serious about being a club that
I've got an
competes in the
example.
Premier League.
I've got an example. I'm pretty sure Terry could probably attest to this due to his experience. But sometimes in life, overpaying isn't bad. So let's take your house, for example. You could probably do your garden. You want to get your garden done. You could probably get it done for, let's say, £2,000 by using market value people, market value builders and workers and landscapers. But then there's another company whose quality is so much higher than everyone else's that will get your garden to the most perfect condition, that your vision will be perfectly done 100%, but you have to pay $5,000. You are overpaying what you actually need to pay to get your garden done, but you're overpaying for the quality. And sometimes overpaying isn't a bad thing.
Well, I think the overpaying conversation is interesting because it's about my issue here with Arsenal isn't they're right to not overpay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm questioning the judgment. Because for me, they're asking for 80 million euros for Gyokeres. I think he's worth that. So this is where it goes from being an objective conversation to a subjective one. Objectively, Arsenal were right to not overpay for players at almost every level. However, I think they're judging this wrong. I think he's worth more than 60 million euros. I think it's 80 million in totality, 70 million plus 10 euros. This is. I think Gyokeres is a bargain. I think Sesko is a very good player. I think Sesko will improve Arsenal. I think Sesko will score a fair amount of goals in England. I just look at the situation with Gyokeres, and I wish he wanted us. And some people say it's his age, Terry. He's 27. He is not He is not an old man. He has got 5 years left at the very top, and he scores goals, and more goals. So again, this is where the conversation. Some people go, "I can't believe you're criticizing Arsenal for not wanting to overpay." It's not about not wanting to overpay. I didn't hear that in what George said. This is about there's an opportunity. He's worth more than you're willing to pay. So if Man United were saying we ain't going to pay no more than 30 million, 40 million for Mbeumo, and they walked away, we'd go, hang on, he's worth well more than that. We walked away like our valuation's wrong, not the principle. There's such for me a difference and a contrast and a dichotomy in this conversation.
Yeah,
Arsenal have got the chance here to sign one of the most prolific, one of the most deadly strikers on planet Earth for a combined fee of 80 million euros, and only 70 million of that is a guarantee. So we're talking here in pounds with today's exchange. That's 59 million pounds. That is cheaper. That is the same price that Chelsea are getting Gittens Pedro for. It's only 4 million pounds more than Jamie Gittens. It's 3 or 4 million pound cheaper than Cunha. It's only 4 million pound more expensive than Zubimendi, and he's one of the most prolific goal scorers on planet Earth. Now, I get accused of never criticizing Arsenal, although everybody seems to conveniently miss the conversation I have around Gyokeres and Sesko. I think Sesko is very good. I think Gyokeres is a different level of goal scorer, and Arsenal should be all. And for 59 million pound, I pray Gyokeres was one in my club first choice, because I don't listen. Let's start a GoFundMe. Whatever United got to do, we're broke. Let's get that money raised, because this man he's a different. He could take a team from 8th place to a Champions League spot. He can take a team from a title race to title winners, and especially if Liverpool go out and buy themselves Isak later in the window, Arsenal needs someone that's capable of scoring 30 plus league goals a season. I think Sesko will come in and do well, and he could move the needle for them. I'm not going to slag him off. I'm not polarized on it. But for me, 59 million pounds, get it done, Arsenal. Get it over the line. He's a phenom. He's developed later in his career. but he's
Terry.
a phenom in my opinion.
One example I would give in this kind of instance, and no matter what they pay for any player, there's going to be people that said you overpaid because like they know that they need to go out and pay it. You know what I mean? So you're not going to be able to get around that. But if you actually compare it to say a similar situation that people always say, well, Liverpool or Arsenal are when they were trying to get over the line for a big trophy. Liverpool went out and spent 75 million on Van Dijk, and it was absolutely ridiculed at the time for the amount of money they went and spent out. And the difference is Liverpool and Klopp believed that he would go on and be able to help them build a foundation to go on and get them over the line in those trophies. And they come in, they went out and they obviously need to get a keeper in as well, and Alisson, but they felt that those were two signings that they could go out. The Van Dijk signing now looks like a masterpiece. He goes down as one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League and one of the best centre-backs in Liverpool of all time. And nobody cares about the price tag of 75 million. So if Arsenal feel, and Arteta feels that Sesko or Gyokeres feel like they'll get them over the line, then it doesn't matter about that. Do you know what I mean? They should go out and spend it.
Jamie,
because that's the difference.
Jamie, when you signed Van Dijk for 75 million, he was 26 years old.
Yeah.
Gyokeres is a year older, and they're acting like he's some OAP who's 35. What are we?
This here is fair from Cal, who says it's not about overpaying. Arsenal were just simply not that interested in Gyokeres. If they wanted him, he would have been here already. And they will only buy Gyokeres at a bargain. Wrong choice, in my opinion. Got to be Sesko. And that, for me, is a great summary of it. My criticism is I think they're judging Gyokeres wrong, and therefore they should be paying the money because I think he's amazing. But I think it's quite obvious, really, that Sesko's in the last week. I think I've just it's become more clear to me. Sesko's got to be their main guy because the player is saying, "I'm here." He scores 97 goals in 103 games for club country, including Champions League football. So if you had country goals in, it works out even more than that. Arsenal are clearly wanting Sesko as number one. Clearly. They just have to be, because I don't believe you could look at the two of them and go, let's negotiate over 5 million, then we'll make it. They've made this is what I keep saying to Arsenal fans. You've made your choice. You've made your choice. You're just trying to get Sesko at the right price. But then this is the power position that Arsenal are in. They've got both players that want them, and no one else is going to hijack them as of right now. So they don't have to rush. That's the one thing. They don't have to rush it because both fucking players. I'm so gutted that Gyokeres wants Arsenal, man. Honestly, I can't get over it. But this here says thing is every year there is a Gyokeres somewhere for sale. A Sesko, however, doesn't come along very often. The last player of that profile was Ibrahimovic.
Stop over exaggerating.
KJ. This is them doing exactly what I said they were going to do. They're already prepping for the Sesko sign. So now they're trying to say he's a second coming of Ibrahimovic.
Say generational. They're saying he's generational. What are we doing here?
The only comparison is they're both like 6'4". That's about it. I see no comparison with their game at all. It's nuts.
I understand wanting Sesko. There's nothing wrong thinking he's a better fit for Arsenal. Fair enough, that's your point. But saying it's stuff like this. If there were Gyokeres everywhere, why isn't there strikers scoring 30 to 50 goals a year everywhere? What are we doing here? There's more Seskos out there who score 15 to 20 goals a season than Gyokeres. What are we doing here, people? What has happened to football? 27 years old is apparently an OAP, and you're no good after 25. You got players who score 50 goals, and apparently they're everywhere else. They're just standard things to get.
Even if Gyokeres or whoever or Sesko comes in and they go out and spend 80 million and they win the league and he doesn't play another game like over the age of 28. Doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, he got them over the line and got them to win a big trophy. Do you know what I mean? Like if he comes in and he's only played for 3 years, doesn't matter. It does not matter. The only thing that matters for Arsenal right now is getting over the line, because that is the thing that's going to be thrown at them consistently until they do it. Like Arteta might not even last this season if he's not in and amongst it come the turn of the year, or if they're struggling, if they get a bad start, it's got the criticism is going to be hampered on them. And if they don't go out and sign someone, they don't go out and get the right player, then yeah, like they're going to be ridiculed. So just go out, whoever's the right player, go out and buy him and then get him in the squad and go out and try and win a league or a Premier League or a Champions League.
Sorry, Terry. The chat is saying he meant profile. Okay, cool. Let's look at the profile of Sesko. You've got Isak, who does what Sesko does. You had Bobby Firmino, who was doing what Sesko does. If you're talking about people that are tall, or can link up play and do all of that and dribble, Ekitike exists. Do you know what? Most of the strikers nowadays are more like Sesko than Gyokeres. Do you know why? Because who is scoring 50 goals a year? Who is out there doing casual things like that? This is what I don't understand. People are saying the striker market is dying because there's no traditional number 9s, but yet Sesko is the one that you can't find anywhere else. And Gyokeres is just easy to find.
It's the same problem as what Chelsea are doing right now, I think, and I think Arsenal are probably trying to protect themselves with a little bit of resale value. So if they do spend this money and heavy investment on Sesko, they have the ability to recoup some of the fee back, rather than with Gyokeres. Let's just say it doesn't work out. They're probably going to look at selling him for 10 or 15, maybe 20 million when he reaches 29 or 30, or you might not be able to sell him at all. So I think this is just another sign of, Arsenal being very similar to Chelsea in the sense that they're trying to protect the club's future and trying to sign some younger players, keep to those younger profiles. But I just think far too often we've seen this model as of recently where football clubs are moving away from signing players in their prime to try to sign these younger players. And that's what keeps putting off these clubs from competing and actually winning things. So Arsenal will just be doing themselves a disservice if they go and get Sesko. Me as a rival fan, I'm like, hey, go get Sesko. This means we get to watch another year of Arsenal not being that guy good and being the nearly guys. But I have to say, if Gyokeres doesn't go Arsenal, I'm more worried about where else he could go, because I don't want to see him at Man United. I don't want to see, because Chelsea, let's have it right, they don't need a striker right now, but once Gyokeres becomes available and it's like Arsenal sign someone else, Chelsea might stop. Their ears will perking, and they're might be 60 million. We just spent down, we could throw that at him. That's where I'm starting to worry. Is other teams will look at this guy and he's going to be amazing for wherever he goes.
If United spend 72 million on Højlund, they'll spend 80 million on Gyokeres.
Maybe not anymore.
Music to my ears. I hope Gyokeres comes to United anyways. We need him badly. Arsenal just go sign Sesko. Well, KJ wants Osimhen, so he didn't care. So he don't care.
What about? Don't care about what?
I don't know.
I don't understand that point.
Arsenal took a chance back in the day with Ian Wright. They need to do the same with Gyokeres. Good point. Terry, we don't have hotels to sell ourselves. We have a women's team.
Yeah.
All of our clubs have a women's team by and large now that we could sell. Do you know
They'll all be doing it, yeah. They're all gonna end up doing it. Like any club that comes into financial issues. I think for Aston Villa, there's been talks about them doing it now as well. Somehow in the next...
Man United have done something that I need to look more into, but the main company lost loads of money, but there's a separate company now that's making profits that things are being run through. And but I always remember it was my brother once had a contract with Barratt Homes, who make loads of homes around the UK, and they owed him money, and the department that owed him money went bankrupt, and it took him ages to get his money as a contractor. And what they do is you got Barratt Homes, but no contractor ever works for Barratt Homes. You'll work for Barratt Homes Plumbing Limited or Barratt Homes Spares Limited. So they create dozens and dozens of subsidiaries that you work for. And that way, if they don't want to pay, if that little department goes bankrupt or that department decides not to pay people and it gets sued and it goes out of business, it doesn't affect the rest of the organization. So that already exists in the UK business and corporate world. So I am not surprised to see more football clubs now doing this and having multiple entities that are connected to their club, and you can run the debts through one. As long as it isn't declared as the main account, it's probably going to... This is why eventually PSR will go, because clubs are just finding legal loopholes consistently, and it's actually going to end up costing so much money to keep making these changes. They're just going to get to a point soon where what they'll eventually do is it'll all go, but they'll just put a spending cap in place, because that's actually easier to manage. There'll just be a spending cap of X amount on transfers and X amount on salaries, and you essentially achieve the same outcome anyway. If you can limit how much is spent, again, it doesn't matter if your owner's worth 1 billion or 500 billion. They can only spend a maximum of 400 million pounds a summer on players. You can still only spend the maximum. So they'll eventually do that, I think. That'll be the way.
I always think, though, with spending caps, because obviously FIFA and stuff, they want to, like you see it now with the Club World Cup, they want to grow the game. They want to, or like different ways of generating revenue. And even like with the Premier League, because of PSR now, if they put in a spending cap, it kind of limits their growth in a sense. So I feel like getting that pass would be so difficult. And I don't feel like even FIFA would want it. Do you know what I mean? So like it can't come down from above.
So I get your point. I think I view it the other way through the sort of spectrum of if you're limited on how much you spend. The reason why the Premier League clubs have so much more money now than everyone else is because of the TV money. But if you're limited of how much you can spend on that on wages and salary, you won't be able to dominate the smaller European leagues or the South American leagues. In fact, like the clubs like Ajax, who can't compete financially with Bournemouth anymore, would then suddenly have more scope. It would lower the value of players. I think potentially what you could do, like, I think the Brazilian teams have done really, really well at the Club World Cup. They've entertained me, but they still lose 95% of their talent early to European clubs. Imagine they were in a financial position because of spending caps where they could keep, or salary caps, where they could keep 50, 60% of their talent in South America. I actually think what it would do is you might actually create a situation where a Club World Cup is genuinely competitive from top to bottom and inside out, as opposed to, because even though the European clubs have been humbled a little bit, we just know that the last 3 or 4 teams in this are going to probably be from Europe. Like, we just sort of know that's going to happen. But I do hear you. They want to grow the game as well. But people say, yeah, but he's from the Portuguese league. Look, there's always a chance, Nick, that he flops, because I saw Shevchenko join the Premier League as arguably the best striker in the world at the time and do awfully. So there's always that chance that players don't work out. Absolutely. There's also a chance that Sesko comes in and bangs in 30 league goals next year and clicks and is amazing. We all sit here and go, and fucking hell, Arsenal got that one right. But ahead of time, we can only give our opinions. Partey was injury prone, only 1 good season in 4. Yeah, I know we weren't talking Partey too much, but I do agree. I think Arsenal have done the right thing by not giving him a long contract and bumping his pay. I actually think, I think you just know, sod's law, that they're giving him a 3-year deal on 250 grand a week, and the fucker would play 1 in 5 games, and then they'd be ridiculed for it. But the same people moaning that they haven't done it, to be fair. So, yeah. Xerxes is better than Sesko. Profile similar to Ibra.
I wouldn't say Xerxes is better, but again, another profile that is Sesko-esque, and you can find it somewhere else.
Yeah. Sesko is 6'5", fast, 2-footed, can dribble, and is a monster in the air. Name a profile like that if they are everywhere. I prefer Gyokeres personally, though.
That's just not true, though. I don't think he's that good at dribbling. And he's definitely not a monster in the air. And when you talk about 2-footed, are we talking about 2-footed in finishing? Because I've watched his finishing and it's not that good. So what are we talking about? Because he can go on both sides. Like, if you're a striker, you need to be a 2-footed finisher, not just 2-footed.
Hey, if you want to talk about someone similar, we saw it in the under 21 Euros in Nick Watermader. He's another Ibrahimovic regen, and he's plays for Stuttgart. Like,
to be fair, Bayern they've agreed personal terms for him, right?
Yeah, Bayern are looking at him. So it just goes to show, guess what? You can find Sesko profiles anywhere.
Aya here says, has there ever been a study showing football expert opinions versus fan opinions? It would be interesting to see who's more right often. Look, I mean, there hasn't been a study as far as I'm aware. It depends on the fans you're talking about. If you're talking about fans when they're emotional, they're always nine times out of 10 going to be wrong or exaggerate, most likely. But when it comes to like the technical breakdown, I'd rather listen to Stuntpeg review a game than Michael Owen. But some of that is, I also think some of that, and this is going to sound harsh, I think some of that has to do with education and intellect. A lot of footballers, especially of the Owens era, like my age and slightly older, didn't work that hard at school. Football was everything. So sometimes it's the undereducated working class men in their 40s and 50s who've had a lot of blows to the heads, header and balls, talking versus a 21-year-old who loves football, who's been to uni, who's very articulate, who's done courses on how to present. So I do think it's because sometimes pro footballers say things and I know what they mean, but they just articulate it in such a stupid way. But that's also but for me, if you actually attack them for that, that tells me you don't understand football at its core. Because sometimes people can say things and you're like, oh, you've worded it wrong, but I know exactly what you mean. that for me is a true. They do say, don't they? If you can't explain something, if you can't explain football or a tactic or a process in a very basic and simple terms, they actually believe you don't understand it fully very well. Because people, I know you've all seen this from the tacticos. They often use really extravagant words to
Bamboozle.
to bamboo. Because I did a tactics video on it once, and people thought it was serious. It was a laugh when I looked at the shape that Chelsea were playing in under Lampard, and it was a bit of a hexagon. So I think I called it sort of like the reverse hexagon formation. It got 500,000 views on YouTube. Because I looked at things and went, well, you just call this a normal give and go. I just created different words for it. And then someone was like, oh my God, it's amazing. People love that shit. Honestly, they love it. They absolutely love it. Off topic, on the topic of overpaying, my family always says expensive is cheap. So expensive is cheap.
Yeah, cheap is expensive.
Cheap is expensive, I think what you mean. Of course, you only overpay for valuable things, not for Sancho per se. I mean, look, expensive doesn't always work out. You've got to be buying quality because you can overpay for things that are bad. Like we've all seen and done that as well. But generally in life, tires is my go-to. Tires. You buy shit tires for your car that are £40 a wheel rather than £150 a wheel. I guarantee you over the course of 2 years, you buy more of the £40 wheels than you do the expensive ones. So that's where it comes from. A lot of cheap stuff wears out sooner. Batteries. You go to pound shop and buy £1 batteries. You're buying them all the time. You go out and buy Duracell. They last in your remote for 3 years. They're more expensive for the pack, but they're better quality. So there's definitely examples there. Berta is smarter than every one of us. He knows Gyokeres wants Arsenal, so why get fleeced by Sporting? Why pay 80 million in June and pay his wages when maybe you can pay 75 million in July and not? Listen, that's what ends up happening. If he ends up getting Gyokeres and they get that price down, then I'd say fair enough. As I've said, again, I'm talking here from a subjective level. I think he's worth that money, and I would get it. I suppose you're right. If you the way you're looking at it, though, I'm going to be objective here. If you're right and he's the number one choice, and they believe they'll drive the price down, and they're not fearful of a hijack, then it's fair not to do it now. If they end up with him for cheaper, I'll hold my hands up and say that was a masterclass. As long as it isn't too late in the window and he's had pre-season, he's ready to go, I'll say, what a masterclass. You bought the player that I thought was worth 80 million euros. You got him for 60 million euros. That's fantastic. Well done. I'll stand there and applaud that. I really would. But if you go for Sesko at a similar price to Gyokeres, I don't want to call it a mistake because I think Sesko's good, but I believe you could have made a better choice. I believe you could have made a better choice there. We fans panic over nothing. We've done a super chat there, which is great. Look, I want to thank every single person who's tuned into the show today. I'm very sorry that I wasn't here from the start, but I had to run to the doctors. KJ, thank you for jumping in. Jamie and George, let everyone know where they can find you on social, gentlemen, please.
You want to go first, Jamie?
No, you can go. It's all right.
Durag Diaries, man. Catch me over on Durag Diaries. I've got a live show at 2 p.m. today, talking a bit more on Tottenham transfer news, a bit more on this Kudus bomber that's been coming out as we talk, which is not really a bomber, but a bomber per se. You could say.
And when I'm going to lie, I was going to bring it up, but then I was thinking there's not a lot going on. I'm saving it for my 5 o'clock show.
I hear it. So probably going to speak a bit on that. But yeah, man, Durag Diaries on most social platforms. Catch me over there.
Yeah, same as the football story. I do lives every Tuesday at like around 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Usually have some schedules and stuff, but I'm a non-delusional Liverpool fan, if you believe that they do exist. So yeah, I see it over there.
You find KJ on the Football Terrace. We all know KJ. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in. This is going to redirect you to Footy Judge Mo's channel. So go and support my brother over there, please. We're back at 5 p.m. today, UK time, for the Top 6 show. Terry, don't get like Liverpool, extend KJ's contract. He's already permanent. It's a lifelong contract until he wants to leave.
Yeah.
Lifelong.
Which is not going to happen.
Hang on a sec. Someone just wrote the word bomb. Oh, no, it's
Bomber?
nothing. No, it's nothing.
Oh, no, he's making fun of how Jordan says bomber. He says bomber because it's like, instead of bomber.
That's his version. Bomber.
Yeah.
Bomber. Yeah. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in today. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.